1. Hey, fourth graders. So, wanted to talk about your lesson plan for Monday and Tuesday, since sadly we will not be together and I'm very sad. But, there are good things about this, and I'm sure you can stay in your pajamas all day, and that's a big perk. So, I hope you're finding positive things about being home, but I do miss you, and what a great day it'll be when we're all back together. Anywho, let's talk about your lesson plan. So, math, pretty straightforward. There's some textbook pages to look at about rounding decimals to whole numbers. So, think about if you have a number and it's got something in your ones place, and then a decimal, and then a number in your tenths place. You will look at the number in your tenths place to decide whether to round the number in your ones place up or keep it the same. I know that's probably confusing just hearing it, but it'll make more sense when you see it, I promise. And it's rounding pretty easy. I don't think you'll have any problems with it. I have posted in math, let me see if I can pull it up. I have posted some extra review worksheets for you, because we usually review before we learn a new concept in class, and since I don't have a nice neat review for you at home, I did post silly old computers being slow. When it pulls up, you'll see there are some review worksheets on different things that we've learned throughout the year. So, optional review for decimals to fractions, rounding, angles. Rounding might be a good one to start with today. Actually, I encourage you to maybe do a rounding review since we're going to be doing some decimal rounding. So, a good refresher. Angles, area and perimeter, fractional parts of a set. That's when you multiply a fraction by a whole number, like 1/3 of 9. Optional review, improper fractions to mixed numbers to improper fractions, adding like fractions. So your parents may pull some of these on any given day just for review. If there's ones that you just see this list and hey, I don't remember much about that, feel free to tell your parents, hey, I really need to do some review here or wherever, because you know what you struggle with. So it's a good time to practice reviewing. So I also put, if you just want to do some Moby Max practice, a good time to do that as well. Okay, for science, this is a silly song. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good to dance to, so it's a good introduction to the 3 laws of motion as we start our physics unit. This is about Sir Isaac Newton. He's the one who discovered these 3 laws of motion, so that's why there's a video on him as well. Then poem review, just like last Wednesday. If you choose to write them out and thought that was helpful to memorize, feel free to do so. If you'd rather just say them over and over again, by all means do that. Review them in whatever the best way for you to memorize them is. You have the freedom to choose. Be sure to think about the poems that you struggle with the most. I know learning to read is a really difficult one, Ozymandias, and this new one, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. So you know yourself, you know which ones you struggle with. Use this time to really practice those. Then we're writing more stories. So the only difference from our fable outlining is that you don't have a moral, but you do have a theme, which you can think of kind of as a moral. And you'll want to have your theme in mind probably even before you think about your setting or your characters, because your theme is what you want the reader to learn from your writing. So think about what you want the theme to be. And it really is, it's helpful to think of it as a moral. So think about your theme, and you can look up some themes online, some themes that some books have, so that you know good examples of types of themes. Then think about your setting. Remember, setting is where and when something takes place. So if you want your setting to be, I don't know, we'll talk about the setting from the bronze bow. So that setting is in Israel during the times of Jesus. So you would say for your setting, the country of Israel, more specifically, you could even say Galilee, around the Sea of Galilee, in the year 0, more or less, right? And you would describe what that time and place is like. So if you wanted your setting to be Mars 50 years from now, when people, I don't know if this is true, but if you wanted to pretend people were settling on Mars 50 years from now, you could talk about the setting being Mars and how the Earth even has changed in that time and what things are like. So setting is where and when it takes place. Characters. So here we're thinking more broadly because I have you tomorrow fleshing out a little bit more what your characters are like, what they look like, how they act, how they behave. Even think about the relationships between characters, if they're family, if they're friends, if they like each other, if they don't. So that's more of Tuesday's work. So this is just more of how many characters you want, how old they are maybe, give them names, more general stuff. So then what I want you to do with your outline, so you'll put number 1, setting. Just briefly talk about your setting. It doesn't have to be very long, maybe 2 to 3 sentences about your setting. Number 2, themes. Write what theme you want your story to have, what you want your reader to learn from reading it. Number 3, characters. List some characters. You don't have to list all of them on Monday, but you can. Then we're going to talk about the plot. So plot, remember, if you can remember our graph, I wish I could draw it, where you have beginning, rising action. So this is normal everyday life for your characters, and then something happens to change it. So think beginning, rising action. What changes in the character's normal everyday life that causes things to be different? So that's called an inciting incident. But here you can just think about the thing that causes everything to change. Then you have rising action, how things are after it changes that are leading to a big event, which is your climax. After that, things calm down and they either go back to normal or they're changed forever, and how things now are after your climax. If it's easier to think of just writing a beginning, middle, and end to your story, you can do that. If you don't want to draw that diagram and think through the beginning, middle, rising action, climax, and resolution. So here, after you've done 1, 2, 3, you can do, 4, 5, 6, 7, and write 4 beginning, just a sentence. These are not paragraphs of what's going to happen. You're not writing your story here. Just a brief sentence or 2 about what you want to happen in the beginning, middle, and the end. It doesn't have to be very detailed. Okay. List Q2. So for your quiz, just your normal 20 words. You don't need to do any review words. Parents, you can add a challenge or a bonus word if you'd like from a future list that they can spell. And if you feel comfortable grading it, what I do for these is if there is a rule that applies to the word and your student got the rule right, wrote it beside the word, I give a half point for that. So I add a half of a point for the rule that they get correct. I only do 1 rule per word. So if one word has 3 or 4 rules that apply to it, I just give 0.5 if your student wrote all of them out. I don't count every single rule as a half point extra. And if you do feel comfortable grading, I'm going to create over in our lesson plans here. So this will be under spelling, since that's where we are. Here in homework, I will make up, if it loads. Once it loads, you'll see there's a place I can make a homework assignment, and I will do that for everything that needs to be turned in. And I'll go ahead and create a homework, and then you'll see on your end, so this will be, Q2 quiz. I'll just go ahead, it's quiz. We'll just keep the start date, extra credit, submissions allowed, yes. So I can create this, and then you as a parent, if you feel comfortable grading it, you can upload, well, I guess it's going to look different for me, but you can upload a file. So either you can take a picture of the graded quiz and upload the JPEG to this, and I'll have the grade. Or if you don't feel comfortable grading it, you can take a picture, upload it, and I can then grade it from there to this homework. If you don't feel confident in taking a picture and uploading, that's fine. I don't mind grading, so it can just wait, but that would be helpful, and if you have any questions about that, I can answer it. So that with the quiz, you can also do that for the workbook, take a picture and upload. I will be giving y'all the answer keys to these workbook exercises once I get my books. They're currently locked in Door Creek, but I'm going to get them tomorrow. So I'll send you the answers for these. Okay, you can start the dictation. You can do all of the dictation even if you want to on today. Okay, literature. Intro to the Bronze Bow. This is a handout. It talks mainly about the author, and you can read that. It talks a little bit about the setting. I want you to picture what it was like to be in this setting. It is Israel and the time of the Romans, occupation of Israel, which is a really interesting time period. You might want to look up maybe some YouTube videos about the Roman occupation of Israel and learn a little bit more about that, or search Google for pictures of Israel in the Sea of Galilee especially, to see what the landscape looks like, and try to put yourself in the story of that. Here, read chapter 11 of the Mughal Emperors of India. I'd like you to try to either read this out loud to a parent or read it quietly to yourself. If it's too difficult, you can always have a parent read, but try to read it independently. I think it's good practice to read. I do have you the next day watching a video about this time period in India. The guy on this video talks rather quickly, and he says a lot, but it is interesting. So if you can maybe watch it with a parent, y'all can discuss it afterwards, and you can tell your parent what you learned about the Mughal Empire, both from your reading and from this video. I think that'll be helpful. It's one of the, what do they call it? Oh, it's a group of videos. They're really, I like them. You learn a lot, and they're kind of silly. Tomorrow also some Moby Max, learning about some more rounding, so another rounding review might be really helpful. More memorizing Newton's 3 laws, some reading. FLL is normal. I think we've already touched on the characters. Finish dictation for Q3, review rules, reading, and some working on Phantom Tollbooth projects. If you've already finished these, then just play them. All right. I know that was a lot, but I think that's all I've got for you for Monday and Tuesday. Know that I miss you all very much, and I'm praying for you and your families. If you have any questions, you can class reach me, and I'll be available